So, moving on to our second story of the evening, and it's the one that's kept everybody on tenterhooks in NASCAR, because after being forced to wait over a week for an answer, NASCAR finally granted Kyle Larson a waiver to remain playoff eligible in the Cup Series. We all remember how Mother Nature ruined Larson's plans to do the double on Memorial Day weekend, with the Indianapolis 500 being delayed for a few hours and ending during the Coca-Cola 600. Instead of pulling Larson from the event, Hendrick Motorsports allowed him to stay and compete in the Indy 500 without a McLaren. And as soon as Larson finished the race, he fulfilled his TV interview and immediately left the track to fly to North Carolina for the NASCAR race. When he arrived at Charlotte Motor Speedway and got ready to climb inside the car, it seemed like Mother Nature also followed him from IMS to Charlotte. It rained and the Coca-Cola 600 never resumed, without Larson getting to run a single lap. Hendrick Motorsports applied for a waiver and it wasn't granted as quickly as many expected. Now, the longer this went on, many feared that Larson's waiver would get denied. In a statement, team owner Rick Hendrick said he felt Larson's month of May program was incredibly positive for everyone involved and that it was a great reflection on the talent competing each week in the Cup Series. Mr. H added that he appreciated NASCAR for communicating with them throughout the effort and granting their request for a waiver, the photo taken by Logan Riley from Getty Images. Now, if you're curious about the decision-making progress, here's what Elton Sawyer, Senior Vice President of Competition, had to say about NASCAR's method of coming to the conclusion to keep Larson eligible for competing for the championship. "We didn't take it lightly. There was a lot of discussion internally, and I'm proud of our team. We ultimately landed at giving Kyle a waiver. Essentially, our decision-making was, although we had the inclement weather in Indianapolis as well as Charlotte, Kyle made every attempt to get to Charlotte. He was standing in the pit box with his helmet on, ready to go. Unfortunately, we had weather in Charlotte as well, and we were unfortunately not able to get the race going again. That's how we landed on our decision. This was, without a doubt, uncharted waters for us. In the past, those waivers have been given mostly for medical reasons." Well, I seem to remember several times they weren't, but still. "This one was unprecedented in the fact that we had a driver miss one of our races, a championship event, to be at another event. That's why we took as long as it did." That's from Elton Sawyer there as well. I seem to remember several waivers getting given for drivers who were also not at championship races just because they were not racing that week or doing other things as well. So, Matt, what are your thoughts on how NASCAR came to this decision? Now, according to Sawyer as well, and are you surprised it took this long for common sense to prevail?
Well, we talked about it on the show last week, and why was it taking so long? And even through the weekend, there were at Gateway, there was still, why is this taking so long? Even on the post race, sorry, I've got a really itchy eyebrow. On the post race box score for the race on Sunday, Larson had no playoff points against his name, and that again provoked Twitter/X uproar. What is going on? Finally, though, sense has prevailed, and as I said on the show last week, it's the Indianapolis 500. It's not a $50 race on the streets in Dallas somewhere, or where just a pickup race somewhere along the line. This is the Indy 500, 300,000 people plus in attendance and millions watching around the world. It's not just a hokey little race. So I think I don't think this will happen again in terms of someone being granted, unless it's Indianapolis. I think that will be the outlier, because of course the other big American races, Daytona obviously doesn't, the 24, the Rolex doesn't clash with anything. You can't see a Cup Series guy going to do any other IndyCar races. It would just be Indianapolis for the 500. They won't go off and do an IMSA race that clashes, for instance. So this was probably in the waiver ruling, and when it was written, perhaps a slight oversight that this, may come up at some point, and it probably should have been written into the rule. But I'm not really sure why it took so long for this process to go through. And you're right, Chase Elliott, he was suspended for an on-track incident at Charlotte last year with Denny Hamlin, or was it Texas? Can't remember, and got the waiver. He got suspended, and within 5 minutes, he was given a waiver for it. So yeah, it doesn't make sense that this just took well, as I said on the show last week, when this was announced, last summer, it should have been done then, but it's taken all that time and more for it to be done. I've got my pencil in my hand, signed off, and been done away with. And bit frustrating on the all of NASCAR's part, frankly, that it just took far too long. But thankfully, it is done, and we can not talk about it this weekend at Sonoma.
And behind the mic saying as well, hello, Matthew. So I'm not saying that Kyle shouldn't have got the waiver, because he should have, but I have no idea why him being there on lap 200, whatever, matters. That has nothing to do with the rule. Yeah, it doesn't as well. I hope this leads to a serious and much needed conversation in the offseason about what commands a waiver. Yeah. To me, he wasn't missing the race because he was, as you say, doing something solo. He was promoting NASCAR as well throughout the Hendrick Motorsport, throughout the entire month of May. All it was doing was promoting NASCAR. And I mean, IndyCar has become a bit more global than NASCAR has. NASCAR very much, especially here in the UK, you'll know, Matt, as well, it's stuck on a channel that barely anybody pays for, barely anybody watches. Whereas it's now on Sky Sports F1, IndyCar, which is it's on Sky F1 around the main of Central Europe. It's a lot more global. It has more of a reach. The Indy 500 is watched by more people than a NASCAR race. So to go there and promote NASCAR, he's brought more fans in and more knowledge in, and certainly to Europeans, I've seen now, are interested in NASCAR because of it. So the waiver should have been automatic because he was promoting the series.
Yeah, and remember when Kevin Harvick was announced a couple of weeks back that he would be standing in for Larson at the All-Star race, which is, of course, not a points-paying race, but still, he was replacing Larson because Larson was busy doing qualifying at Indy. How much NASCAR got on board with that on social, like they do when there's a fight.
We'll delay half an hour. It's fine. Yeah, you've got half an hour. Yeah, don't worry about it. We'll start the race when you get
on board with giving, Harvick's back. Look at this. What great news. But not because Kyle Larson's not going to be there. It was just a little bit off, and odd. But as Mr. Owens has put there in his comment, this does need to be addressed and plumbed into the waiver page of the NASCAR rulebook over the off season.